Hello everyone, welcome to the Departamento Loratorum. My name is Max, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Salamanders. Of all the 9 original Loyalist Space Marine legions, the Salamanders were the only ones to sire no successor chapters in the second founding. Victims of the drop site massacre, they were left greatly reduced, with barely enough Marines to fill the ranks of even one chapter. This state of affairs continued for the next 10,000 years, even well after the Salamanders recovered their strength. While several chapters are suspected to descend from the gene line of Vulkan, it took until the Ultima founding and the creation of the Primaris Marines for the Salamanders to receive recognized successors. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at all the known and suspected Salamander successor chapters that you may wish to base your Space Marine army around, or at least the 6 that we have any real information on. There are a couple others, notably the Iron Drakes and Hammers of Nocturne, but they have almost no lore, not even color schemes. Maybe they will be expanded on in the future, but for now I'll be sticking to the 6 that we have substantial lore on. Fortunately, these chapters are all distinct and interesting, each one emulating or differing from the Salamanders in unique and interesting ways. That might be one reason you'd want to pick them as a basis for your army. You could also just enjoy the Salamanders. They are a very popular chapter with their compassion, love of flame-based weaponry, and distinctive coal-black skin and red eyes, but you may want more freedom to create your own lore and characters that a successor chapter gives you. Or maybe you want to create your own custom successor, in which case looking at these canon ones could be helpful, letting you see which concepts and character traits that you like and dislike. There is of course nothing wrong with going with the Salamanders themselves for your army. They're probably one of the most popular first founding chapters, but one of the things that makes Warhammer so great is the presence of tons of minor factions, chapters, warbands for you to choose for your army, or who just exist and make the galaxy feel so much bigger and more alive. And I'm really happy to see the writers and artists at Games Workshop creating more successors like these, especially since the Salamanders were relatively neglected, for a Space Marine chapter at least, for a long time in terms of lore. We will not be doing a deep dive into each chapter on this list. It's going to be a summary for each one, going over the basics and any highlights, and letting you decide if they're right for you without getting too bogged down in every little detail. Without any further ado, let's get started with the unofficial successors, and we'll start with the one that's the least like the Salamanders, the Black Dragons. Founded in the 21st, or Cursed, founding, the Black Dragons are known for a mutation of their os medulla organ, responsible for the strengthening of their bones, that causes certain members of the chapter to spout bony growths from their heads and arms. Astartes afflicted with these growths will sharpen and coat them in adamantium in order to use them in combat. These warriors will then group up into specialist assault squads called Dragon Claws. It is even rumored that the Black Dragon's apothecaries encourage the growth of these mutations, although of course that would be highly illegal. As you would expect, the chapter is viewed with suspicion and hostility by some of the more puritanical Space Marine chapters, such as the Dark Angels and Marines Malevolent, as well as various other factions within the Imperium, such as the Inquisition. Their habit of delaying or refusing to send in their gene seed tithes certainly doesn't help. In fact, the last inquisitorial investigation into the chapter was only called off due to the opening of the Great Rift. Despite this distrust, the Black Dragons have still taken part in many famous campaigns in Imperial history. They fought in the Third War for Armageddon, battled against plague zombies on Antagonists, as detailed in the novel Death of Antagonists, and have participated in the Indomitus Crusade, gaining the technology to create new Primaris Marines. The Black Dragons have also come into conflict with the Dark Eldar, with the homunculi coven the Hex, alongside Duke Siliscus, capturing several of them and using their mutations to create a virus that can cause a bone dragon to spawn from a host. Several Black Dragons were also captured and imprisoned within the Webway, most notably the warrior Zartath, and his eventual rescue by and service alongside the Salamanders is detailed within their series of novels. The exact nature of the connection between the Salamanders and Black Dragons has changed over the years. Many sources speculate that the Black Dragons are descended from the Salamanders, and this was confirmed as recently as a 2021 Warhammer community article. However, both the 9th and 10th edition codices list them under the unknown lineage section for the successor chapters. Interestingly, one of their earliest appearances was in the 3rd edition Codex Armageddon, which also included a Salamander's army list, although no connection between the two was alleged in that particular book. I think it is safe to say that they are Salamander's descendants. If GW wanted us to consider an alternative candidate for their founder, they would have given us one by now. It's not surprising that the Salamanders have refused to officially claim them, however, considering their mutations and disputes with Imperial authorities. The Black Dragons have black armor with white detailing. Besides the use of their Dragon Claw squads, they are Codex compliant and display their company color on their left knee. Their symbol is a white dragon's head. One of the most famous chapters on this list, the Black Dragons have appeared in many novels, short stories, White Dwarf articles, etc. So if you wanted a successor chapter with a decent amount of lore, and a more unique concept that is distinct from a lot of other chapters, they'd be the choice for you. Their mutations also set them apart from other chapters, and I think it'd be really fun to kit bash a few Dragonclaw squads, although I think if you choose to do that, you're obligated to make at least one Marine look like Wolverine. The Black Dragons have also faced off against the Drukhari on several occasions, so they'd be a good pick if your friend had a Drukhari army. You could really play up a rivalry with them. Let's move on to another chapter with an unknown origin, albeit one that the Salamanders would be much happier to claim as descendants. The Storm Giants. A chapter of Space Marines known for their great strength, even beyond the superhuman standards of the Adeptus Astartes. The Storm Giants were created in an unknown founding from an unknown lineage, although they are speculated to be Salamander successors, due to similarities in their chapter culture and disposition. For example, Storm Giants neophytes are trained in something called the Doctrine of Ash. While we don't know exactly what that entails, it certainly seemed familiar to the Salamanders fighting alongside them on the world of Torkar. The Adeptus Mechanicus is repeatedly asked to examine the Storm Giants' gene seed to discover the source of their strength, but the chapter is always refused. Unlike the Black Dragons, however, the Storm Giants are not distrusted by the rest of the Imperium. They have taken part in many important engagements, such as assisting the Black Templars in the aftermath of the Second Purging of Lastari in M36, fighting alongside the Salamanders on Torkar as previously mentioned, and taking part in the Third War for Armageddon against Ghazghkull Thraka's orcs. Coincidentally, the Storm Giants also first appeared in the 3rd edition Codex Armageddon, although again, no connection to the Salamanders was alleged. The Storm Giants have a pale yellow or cream-colored armor, and their symbol is a red lightning bolt. The Storm Giants may not have as much lore as chapters like the Black Dragons, but they still do have unique character traits like their strength, and enough information to provide a nice framework to help you build up your own lore for them if you pick them as your army. Some people may find this really nice, having more freedom to create and not be held down by as much established information. These next 4 chapters were all introduced in the 9th edition Codex. Created in the Ultima founding, the Salamanders were not made aware of their creation until after the fact, and immediately dispatched a chaplain to make contact with each chapter and teach them about the Promethean cult, the chapter cult of the Salamanders. Let's start with a look at the chapter that took to those teachings the best, the Covenant of Fire. Obsessed with knowledge, the Covenant of Fire seek out and preserve Imperial lore in their campaigns across the galaxy, trying to use this information to enlighten themselves and others. But if they come across information that they deem heretical, using totally unbiased logic I'm sure, that information is immediately destroyed before it can cause any harm, putting it to the flames if their heraldry is any indication. The chapter has happily accepted the Salamanders' teachings, incorporating them into their existing customs. They have also contributed forces to Forgefather Vulkan Histan's expedition to the isolated world of Zero, to search for clues that could lead them to Vulkan's lost relics. The Covenant of Fire have orange armor with black arms, pauldrons, and helmets, and gold trim. Their symbol is a burning book. In what I'm sure is a total coincidence, the chapter's symbol and habit of destroying heretical information is very similar to that of the Wordbearers Legion before the heresy. If you liked fire, wanting to play with a ton of flamers or meltas, the Covenant of Fire are surprisingly the only Salamander successor that would easily accommodate that playstyle. They'd also appeal to you if you like the idea of playing as loyalist Wordbearers, as it's heavily implied that Call used their gene seed when creating the chapter and is trying to pass them off as Salamander successors. As someone with a Wordbearers army, albeit a more chaotic one, I do feel a bit of a connection with them, especially since they also have a pretty cool and unique color scheme, although fair warning, all that orange might be hard to paint. Let's move on now to a chapter with more of a connection to water than to fire. The Dark Krakens. Based on the ocean world of Noctis, the Dark Krakens have quickly adopted the culture of their homeworld. Inhabitants of Noctis will hunt giant oceanic beasts for glory as well as for food. The Dark Krakens emulate this in their campaigns, seeking out the physically largest or most numerous concentration of foes in order to test themselves and gain renown. Their service alongside other Space Marines of different lineages as Grey Shields in the Indomitus Crusade also influenced their chapter culture and the individual Space Marines in it, with the Marines of the chapter often taking after the warriors they served alongside. The Dark Krakens are notable for taking part in the war for Octarius against the Orcs and Tyranids, which is detailed in White Dwarf 466 in the Warzone Octarius book. There we learn a bit more of their chapter culture, like their habit of decorating their armor with trophies and their use of bioluminescent chemicals from Noctis to decorate their armor, vehicles, and ship interiors with markings that are only fully visible in darkness. The chapter also maintains the Codex Tenebris Abyssor, a collection of all the chapter's teachings written in bioluminescent ink that can only be read in complete darkness. The Dark Kraken's power armor is black, with dark purple arms and pauldrons, and their symbol is a white kraken. Out of all the Ultima founding Salamander successors, the Dark Krakens probably have the most information available on them, so they'd be the easiest of the bunch to create an army for without having to create additional lore yourself, if you prefer your chapters a bit more plug and play. If you're going to be playing against armies like Tyranids, Orcs, Knights, maybe Battlesuit Heavy Tau, then the Dark Krakens with their hunter culture would be a really good choice for you. Kit Bashers can also do a lot with their habit of taking trophies, and creating some nautical themed marines would be pretty cool. It might also be a fun painting challenge to try to do their armor markings that are only visible in total darkness, although I'm not really sure how you would do that. There really is just a lot to like about this chapter. But the Dark Krakens aren't the only salamander successor who are renowned hunters, although this next example is much more focused on one type of prey: the Dragonspears. A fleet-based chapter, the Dragonspears are known as expert orc hunters. They gained this reputation fighting against greenskins in the Narion Reef alongside the Space Wolves, causing bonds of brotherhood to grow between the two chapters. By the time the Salamanders were able to find their successor, the Dragonspears had developed a strong culture of self-sacrifice and a practice called endo-cannibalism, eating portions of a fallen battle brother's body to ensure that their memories and experiences would always live on in their surviving brothers. The Dragonspears have taken part in the Prosper and Rift Wars against the forces of Chaos led by Magnus the Red and the Thousand Sons in their attempt to build a pocket empire within Imperial space, specifically fighting in the Chancil Suppression. They have also upheld their oaths to the Space Wolves and joined them in combating the Great Wa led by Gazkul Thraka. The Dragonspears have teal-colored armor, and their symbol is a white shield with 2 crossed spears on it. Obviously, the Dragonspears would be a good choice if you knew you were going to be playing against a lot of orc armies, or just wanted to kit bash some cool orc trophies. They also have an interesting chapter culture, a lot to dig into there, especially with the cannibalism. They'd probably be good for you if you wanted like a Salamanders Space Wolves hybrid as your army, and I really like them, they just sort of seem cool. While most of the other chapters we've talked about have at least some connection to the Salamanders, the final example is notable for being almost completely separate from their founder, the Black Vipers. As previously mentioned, the Salamanders sent out chaplains to try and make contact with all their new successors. The chaplain that was sent to make contact with the Black Vipers mysteriously disappeared en route. No one knows what happened to him, but it is noted that wherever the Black Vipers are found, agents of Archmagos Belisarius Call are never far behind. The Black Vipers are a reserved and closed-off chapter, rarely willingly fighting alongside other Imperial forces. Nothing is known about their customs or beliefs, it's not even known if they've claimed a homeworld yet or not. When they do fight alongside allies, they will attempt to have the bare minimum amount of contact with them possible. We do not have any known engagements for the Black Vipers, although I'm sure they have taken part in many unknown operations on behalf of a certain Archmagos. Their chapter colors are black, with red backpacks, knee pads, trim, and detailing, and their symbol is either a red viper's head, as of the 9th edition codex, or a whole red viper, as of the 10th. The Black Vipers are another chapter where you're given more of a framework to build up your own custom lore around them, rather than an already fully developed chapter with years of lore and novels behind it. This can be appealing if you want more freedom with your chapter, or if you want to build more of like an Adaptus Mechanicus influence special operative style chapter. I feel like that'd be really cool for them. If you already had an AdMech army and a Belisarius Call, the Black Vipers would be a great pick if you wanted to splash in some Space Marine units. So those are all of the Salamander successor chapters. I really enjoyed all of them. I'd say they're all pretty distinct from one another, a lot of really fun concepts and color schemes and lore. Let me know which one was your favorite down in the comments. I'm really happy to see Games Workshop expanding the lore for the Salamanders and just introducing some more interesting successors in general. It's no secret that Space Marines are the main focus of Warhammer 40k, and if they're going to be the faction we see over and over, I'd rather GW use more unique successor chapters and stories instead of the same 9 to 10 chapters over and over again, just for a little more variety. I also hope that other chapters that have historically been lacking in successors, like the Space Wolves and Iron Hands, get the same treatment that the Salamanders have. If this video inspired you to pick up some more models for your own custom chapter, I have an affiliate link with Geekery Games that you can use to get 5% off eligible orders. Just put in code DEPARTLORE at checkout. Each purchase also helps the channel, so if you're looking for a discount on some Warhammer kits, check them out. I'll put a link to them in the description. The Tzeentch Warbands video will be coming. It will probably be out sometime in June. My next video is going to be more of an experiment, trying something a bit new. I don't want to give it away, but I hope you'll all enjoy it. If you did enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. For now, thank you and have a great day. Bye!